Hey, we are in Deuteronomy chapter 19 and 20. We're going to read it from the Message, which is kind of good because, again, Moses is retelling everything, making sure everybody's on the same page. And so we get to see a little different version of the same material, just told maybe in a little bit different way, and maybe helps us to understand things a little bit better. Chapter 19. When God your God throws the nations out of the country that God your God is giving you, and you settle down in their cities and houses, you are to set aside 3 easily accessible cities in the land that God your God is giving you as your very own. Divide your land into thirds, this land that God your God is giving you to possess, and build roads to the town so that anyone who accidentally kills another can flee there. This is the guideline for the murderer who flees there to take refuge. He has to have killed his neighbor without premeditation and with no history of bad blood between them. For instance, a man goes with his neighbor into the woods to cut a tree. He swings the axe. The head slips off the handle and hits his neighbor, killing him. He may then flee to one of these cities and save his life. If the city is too far away, the avenger of blood racing is in hot-blooded pursuit might catch him since it's such a long distance and kill him even though he didn't deserve it. It wasn't his fault. There is no history of hatred between them. Therefore, I command you, set aside the 3 cities for yourselves. When God your God enlarges your land, extending its borders as he solemnly promised your ancestors, by giving you the whole land he promised them, because you are diligently living the way I'm commanding you today, namely to love God your God and to do what he tells you all your life, and when that happens, then add 3 more to these 3 cities, so that there is no chance of innocent blood being spilled in your land. God your God is giving you this land as an inheritance. You don't want to pollute it with innocent blood and bring guilt upon yourselves. On the other hand, if a man has a history of hatred towards his neighbor, waits in ambush, then jumps him, mauls him, kills him, and then runs to one of these cities, that's a different story. The elders of his own city are to send for him and have him brought back. They are to hand him over to the avenger of blood for execution. Don't feel sorry for him. Clean out the pollution of wrongful murder from Israel so that you'll be able to live well and breathe clean air. Don't move your neighbor's boundary markers, the long-withstanding landmarks set up by your pioneer ancestors, defining their property. You cannot convict anyone of a crime or sin on the word of one witness. You need 2 or 3 witnesses to make a case. If a hostile witness stands to accuse someone of a wrong, then both parties involved in the quarrel must stand in the presence of God before the priests and judges who are in office at that time. The judges must conduct a careful investigation. If the witness turns out to be a false witness and has lied against his fellow Israelite, give him the same medicine he intended for the other party. Clean the polluting evil from your company. People will hear of what you've done and be impressed that you will put a stop to this kind of evil among you. Don't feel sorry for the person. It's life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot. When you go to war against your enemy and see horses and chariots and soldiers far outnumbering you, do not recoil in fear of them. God your God, who brought you up out of Egypt, is with you. When the battle is about to begin, let the priests come forward and speak to the troops. They'll say, "Attention, Israel. In a few minutes, you're going to do battle with your enemies. Don't waver in resolve. Don't fear. Don't hesitate. Don't panic. God your God is right there with you, fighting with you against your enemies, fighting to win." Then let the officer step up and speak to the troops. "Is there a man here who has built a new house but hasn't yet dedicated it? Let him go home right now, lest he die in battle and another man dedicate it. And is there a man here who has planted a vineyard but hasn't yet enjoyed the grapes? Let him go home right now, lest he die in battle and another man enjoy the grapes. Is there a man here engaged to marry who hasn't yet taken his wife? Let him go home right now, lest he die in battle and another man take her." The officers will then continue, "And this is a man, and is there a man here who is wavering in resolve and afraid? Let him go home right now, so that he doesn't infect his fellows with his timidity and cowardly spirit." When the officers have finished speaking to the troops, let them appoint commanders of the troops, who shall muster them by units. When you come up against a city to attack it, call out peace, and if they answer yes, peace, and open the city to you, then everyone found there will be conscripted as forced laborers and work for you. But if they don't settle for peace and insist on war, then go ahead and attack. God your God will give them to you. Kill all the men with your swords, but don't kill the women and children and animals. Everything inside the town you can take as plunder for you to use and eat. God your God gives it to you. This is the way you deal with the distant towns, the towns that don't belong to the nations at hand. But with the towns of the people that God your God is giving you as an inheritance, it's different. Don't leave anyone alive. Consign them to holy destruction. The Hittites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, obeying the command of God your God. This is so there won't be any of them left to teach you to practice the abominations that you engage in with their gods, and you end up sinning against God your God. When you mount an attack on a town and the siege goes on a long time, don't start cutting down the trees, swinging your axes against them. Those trees are your future food. Don't cut them down. Are tree soldiers who come against you with weapons? The exception can be those trees which don't produce fruit. You can chop them down and use the timbers to build siege engines against the town that is resisting you until it falls. And so we see God giving some more instructions, and then with battle, and here's what we're going to find is that they don't do that. The Hittites, the Hivites, the Perizzites, all those people, the Canaanites, they don't destroy them, and they comes back to haunt Israel and bites them in the butt a couple of times, and they just have a hard time with them. So again, the moral of what God is trying to tell us and what Moses is trying to tell the people is that we need to listen and to obey God. It's for our best interest. Have a great day.